All right, so I took this data from my first hour class here, and you guys, as a group, there's 29 of you, and now I can ask you probability questions. If I grab a random kid, just a random kid in the room, what's the probability they're going to have a dog? You know, probabilities are what you want, which is the people that have a dog, over what's possible, which is all the kids. All right, so what you wanted was dogs, and is that the 9? No, it's not the 5 either, because it's the total. It's 14 out of all the possible kids. The possible kids was 29. It's not always out of 29, though. Let me explain why. On the harder problems, they're going to ask you for, like, let's say we only talk to people who own dogs. Do you get that that would narrow down to only this data? If you only talk to, oh, that was shoes. Sorry. I thought D was dog. D was dark shoes. Here's dog. Do you get that would only narrow it down to that? Right? All right. If I'm only talking to dog people, then it's not out of 29. It'll be out of 19. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's where kids get nailed on the test, is they start thinking it's always out of 29. Nope, it's not. It depends. If I ask you, I'm only talking to the kids with dogs, then it'll be out of 19. I'll give you an example of a question like that. Given I only talk to the people who own dogs, what's the probability they have light shoes? Given I'm only talking to dog people, what's the probability they have light shoes? Well, what I want in that case is these. Out of this time, it's not 29 possible because the only people I'm talking to add up to 19. 10 out of 19. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, cool. So this is called conditional probability. So if I set a condition on it, like I'm going to pick a random person, but I'm only picking a person who has dark shoes. It's still random, but I'm selecting from that. And so then it's out of 14. Okay? So you really got to watch the wording close on these kind of questions. All right. So I'm going to give you one that is easy, and I'm going to give you one that is hard. And let's see if you can get 2 questions like these, which are conditional probability questions. Let's see if we can get these right. All right. Here's an easy one. If I wanted to find somebody who had white shoes, or at least lighter colored shoes, and has a dog at home, what's the probability if I grab a random kid that I'd get somebody with light shoes and a dog at home? Light shoes and dog. Okay, that was 10. And did I ever say I was only going to talk to the dog people or only going to talk to the light-shoed persons? No, I didn't say any of that. So then it's out of 29. Who had 10 out of 29? Okay, cool. And then the more complicated kind, now that I've explained it to you, these should be slam dunk. Get these right on the test. These are pretty easy. So, given I called all the people with light shoes into the hallway, the randomly first person who walks in the hallway, what's the probability they have a dog? I'll say the question one more time. Given I'm calling all the light-shoed people to go into the hallway with me, now what's the probability that the first person who walks out there has a dog? All right, so you always got to ask yourself, what do I want? What are all the possible? And honestly, I think you should start with the possible. It's always the easier thing. and it'll keep you from messing up. What is possible is only these people, because I'm only taking the light-haired or light-shoed people in the hallway. And then what I wanted was dogs, so it's 10 out of 15. Who had 10 out of 15? Cool. You see how easy these are? Sweet. They seriously are that easy. So now I got to review yesterday's stuff just a little bit, because today's stuff was so easy. We should probably just make sure that you got this. A ton of you, I think, probably didn't know how to do this question on the homework. It had like, this is like 10 and this is like 12, and then the height was like 7 or something. How do you find the area of one of those? I never talked about it yesterday. If you know, you should be able to just, boom, get the area. If you don't know, then you got to realize you have to memorize this formula. I'm going to show it to you in a second. Hint, it is not 12 times 7. 12 times 7 would give you the area, it would be way too big. That'd be like this. That'd be the area of that whole thing. And no, you shouldn't try to divide it into like 3 shapes and like get them all separate. Like you could do that, but that would be super slow. So, do you know how to find the area of a trapezoid? This is a classic ACT kind of question because the ACT does not give you a formula sheet. You either know how to do these or you don't. And the ACT is 38% geometry, which rounds to 40%, which is a lot of geometry. All right. Now, there's 2 kinds of kids in here. Kids that know, it gives you like, oh, that's easy. I know the answer. I got it in 2 seconds. Kids that are just either guessing or don't know. How many of you know? You know how to do this. All right. Thank you for letting me know. There's like 6 of you that are sure. All right. Rest of you, listen up, because I'm pretty sure we're testing you on this. This would be too big. 12 times 7, that's too big. This would be too small, because 10 times 7 would only be giving you this area right here, and it doesn't even have the triangles on the sides. So all you have to do is say what's exactly between them. It's kind of like that fable of who's that girl that goes and checks this bed and it's too hard, and then she checks that. Goldilocks. There we go. We want to find the number that's just right. 10 is too small, 12 is too big. You go exactly between them, you get 11, and 11 times 7 is 77. Who knew it was 77 and had that answer? All right, cool. If you didn't know that, all you have to do is average these 2. You average the bases. See, this is a base and this is a base. Depends on if you want to set it on its head or on its butt. All right, and then you times the height. If you need me to tell you exactly what to do to average, you just take base 1 plus the base 2, and then you divide by 2. But I think you know how to average, don't you? Just add them together, divide by 2. And if you add 10 and 12 together, you get 22. You cut it in half, you get 11. And then 11 times the height, which was 7, gives you your 77. All right, so I think a ton of you may have gotten that question wrong because you didn't know the right formula. So let's make sure you got all the formulas down. On the test, we could give you a circle. Write the formula next to it. Draw a circle, write the formula for it. Triangle. Rectangle. Square. Or that crazy looking shape I just gave you. It is called, anybody remember it? Got short-term memory? Trapezoid, very good. Write down the formulas for each of these. Because if you don't know those formulas, you can't do those area problems. And those are kind of hard because they're a mix of, you got to remember formulas. And you got to know how to divide what you want by what's possible. And you're probably putting it in a calculator at the end, and there's a chance to mess that up. Okay, so I think these kind of questions where they give you like, there's a trapezoid. And that's a trapezoid too, by the way. Doesn't have to always look exactly like this. That's a trapezoid. And the base here is 12. The base here is 8. And then this height here is 8. And then there's a circle inside it with a radius of 1. What's the probability you're going to hit the circle? That kind of question. All right, so let's make sure you got all these areas, or yes?
Will you always be given the radius, or will you have a chance of getting the diameter?
It is possible they'll give you the diameter, and then you'll just have to cut it in half.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they'll have to give you either one of those two. They have to give you one of those two. Okay, so let's see who's going to give me their best guess on the area formula for each of these things. One of them's got pi in it. You know, all I'm asking for is like pi times d squared, except that's not right, of course. Let me find my seating chart. I'm trying to just not call on the same people over and over or make you feel like I'm picking on you, so the dice would choose. Row 4, person 1, Sasek, that's you. What's this formula for this circle here?
Pi r squared.
Pi r squared is correct. The next one, row 3, person 2, Alex Wilhelm. What is this formula for that, for a triangle?
1/2 base times height.
Perfect. And that could be base times height divided by 2. It's the same thing. All right, the next two you don't even need to, I know you know it's base times height. This one you might be like, well, how do I do it if they're the same? You can just say base times base, or height times height, or sides squared. Sometimes people do that. Because, you know, if I do this, the base or the side squared, it's the same thing as base times base. All right, and then the trapezoid. The one I just told you about seconds ago. See if random kid knows. Huffman, that's you. How do you do these again?
I know it, I think you did a different way.
You can say it any way you want to say it. Just tell me how I do it.
1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times height.
Yep, that's the average of the bases times the height. Yep, very good. Okay, now, here is a typical question from yesterday. What's the probability you'd hit that red spot, the red circle? Remember, it's always what you want.
Is that a radius of 1?
Yes, it's a radius of 1 over what's possible. And I'd always start with the possible. There's 2 bases. There's a height.
You want to hit the circle?
You want to hit the circle. That is a good question, because the next question I'm going to ask is, what if you don't want to hit the circle? But right now, you want to hit the circle. You don't have to go and get the decimal for this. Just know what would you put on top, and what would you put on the bottom. All right. It is row 3, person 6. Nolan Carr, that's you. Can you tell me what to do for the possible? Because I always try to start with the bottom.
Get that average of the 2 bases.
Nice. These add up to 20 divided by 2 is 10.
And then times that.
10 times 8 is 80. Who had 80 for the bottom of their thing? Good. Then what we want is the circle on the top. Row 5, last person, Tessa, that is you. How do you find this red circle area?
Pi r squared.
Yep. And what is R?
1.
And 1 squared is still 1. So it's just pi. So it's pi over 180. So you'd go 3.14 divided by 80. All right. Now, how could that problem get harder? The probability of hitting this, which is really saying probability of not hitting the circle. So what you do is you take the same number as the bottom, because what you're saying is you have a really good chance you're going to win. In fact, it's almost 80 out of 80. But what do you do, Jonathan, to finish it off?
80 minus pi.
Minus the circle, which in this case is pi. All right, cool. You feel like you get those? Then you're all up to date. And this probability test is coming on Tuesday of next week. That's coming fast, right? All I have time to teach you is a new thing on Friday. And then we review on Monday, and the test is Tuesday. And it counts just as much as all your other tests, so. All right. Okay, so let's start. The Schoology quiz in this case has a piece of like PDF that's got all the questions on it, and then you just type your answers into the Schoology quiz. All right, so why don't you open up the PDF first? You might as well just do it all in the PDF and then enter it at the end when you're done. So grab that PDF, open it up, and let's do the first problem together. So once you started, you're halfway done. All right, let's see who's reading me that first question. Row 5, person 2. Heidi, would you please read me number 1? If it's a complicated drawing, could you walk it up here?
So grab.
Okay, would you bring it up here? Okay, giant chart thing, and the actual first question is right there. So
Yeah.
read me that.
How many people surveyed were 10 to 19 years old?
10 to 19. How many people surveyed? Okay, is that a probability question? No, it's just how many people. Kai, can you look it up? You can have a seat. Thank you very much. 10 to 19. What do you think the answer is?
Oh, wow.
Can anybody verify 1,000? All right, yep. There you go. First answer is 1,000. So sometimes they aren't probabilities. It's just, can you read the chart? Kai, would you read me number 2?
How many people surveyed picked oat and raisin cookies as their favorite?
All right. It's just a how many people thing. That was really easy. Just find the right number, put it in there. It'll get harder, and it's still a really easy day. All right. So that's all I got for you for today.